Yes, when we reviewed Saldanha in December 2015, at that point in time, steel prices were at the lowest. Hot rolled coil FOB China was $272. So we're selling, and Saldanha is for the export market. So we had to compete with those prices and sell into the export market. At that point in time, at those prices, Saldanha was not viable. So therefore we had to look at an alternative source of energy, because we know that electricity costs, Saldanha being an electricity intensive plant, which in the winter months is about 30% of its cost, then doesn't really make it viable with our high electricity and energy costs. So what we did is we had to investigate an IPP, an independent power producer, gas to power. But based on where steel prices are today, Saldanha is viable. We are in the process of doing a mini reline for Saldanha. That mini reline will cost about 80 million. It will give Saldanha a life of between 3 to 4 years. So it buys us time to then investigate the IPP and the power solution, because Saldanha in 5 years' time needs a major reline of its corex or its furnace, and that major reline would cost 1.1 billion. So steel prices today doesn't really justify a business case in 5 years' time for a major reline. But as we sit now with the mini reline, we've bought time for Saldanha. We're comfortable where Saldanha is in its life today. On the IPP process, we have appointed a company that we're now dealing with. We're in the process of investigating signing a power purchase agreement. So we are far down the track, and obviously together with the independent power producer that we're working with, we're also working quite closely with government, especially government of the Western Cape. We're also in discussions with various other government bodies and institutions, obviously also including the DTI, because we want to make sure that at the end of the day the project is successful, and we do need collaboration between government, between industry and the ultimate IPP SA, which is the partner. This project that needs to come on stream at least a year before we decide to do the major reline. So latest this project would need to come on stream is about 2018, 2019. And how it would basically look is it is gas to power. So gas, you'd convert gas into electricity, so there'd be turbines. And the size of the plant that is being investigated from a financial viability point of view is about 1,500 megawatt plant. ArcelorMittal will sign an offtake agreement for Saldanha on that, and the offtake agreement we roughly require for Saldanha about 180 to 250 megawatts. So we will sign a power purchase. If we can then have further discussions with Eskom to be able to toll further electricity, we can then use it at our plant in Vanderbilt Park. We can use it in Newcastle, because the total electricity demand for ArcelorMittal South Africa is about 750 megs. So that's how the plant will look. The plant will have a capacity of 1,500. Our offtake agreement on peak is about 240. On average is 180. But obviously as part of that, they will then sell electricity to other industries within the Western Cape, also sell it into the Western Cape itself. What we are doing with the independent power producer that we're talking to, we will just give them access to land. They will build the plant on the land. We're not going to take an equity stake in this plant. It's not my business to become an owner of a power producing plant. It's just for me to ensure that I be able to achieve sustainable electricity at a sustainable price. So there's not an intent for ArcelorMittal to take an equity stake in this plant. See, costing us, it wouldn't, but numbers that's been thrown around is $1.5 million for every megawatt of electricity. So you can do the math that this project will cost circa, I think, about $10 billion. If you look at our discussions and what we've always told the media and our stakeholders is the measures we're discussing in government is a holistic solution. Part of that solution was obviously the duties. We've applied for 10 duties. We've got 10 that's been approved, but 8's been gazetted. The 2 that's outstanding is hot rolled coil. Hot rolled coil is 50% for Vanderbilt Park, 38% of the revenue of ArcelorMittal. So that becomes critical. And the other one is OBRs, other bars and rods, about 3% of our product. I understand that's now with the revenue services for gazetting. So basically everything we've asked the government for, they have supported us, because we've applied to ITAC. ITAC is its own body, as mentioned by Guts Strucken, so they follow due process. We provided them with the information. So on the duties, we've basically everything we've applied for is in the process. What we've also applied for is safeguards. We've applied for safeguards on hot rolled coil. We've also applied for safeguards on cold rolled, and we've applied for safeguards on wire rod and on rebar. Those safeguards are currently with ITAC, they're investigating it. ITAC has gazetted that they are investigating the safeguards on hot rolled coil and on plate. But with the pricing out of China that we've seen, we have spoken about prices came from a low of $272, high of $465, back down to $353. It's not sustainable. So for me to implement the fair pricing mechanism today, safeguards becomes imperative to ensure that we have a stable steel industry. As part of that, we're also discussing with the Competition Commission the sins of the past. It's a fine that we've agreed of 1.5 billion. What we're just finalizing now, the terms and conditions of that fine, which is imminent. And obviously, the other major one is localization, where we've heard from GATT today that previously all steel was deemed local, whether you got it from China or wherever you got it from around the world. So today, with localization and the undeeming of steel to be local, that means on any of the government and SOE projects, they would need to use local steel, and that would allow me to run my mills full and ensure that I continue being a sustainable company. So those are the other measures we're discussing, is localization, and the last measure is designation. On state-owned enterprise projects, that local steel becomes designated. So that will make ArcelorMittal able to run its mills full and be sustainable. But the quid pro quo is to that is I'm also going to invest 4.6 billion rand into efficiencies and ensuring that I'm stable. And part of that is also the fair pricing mechanism we're discussing with government to ensure that I charge a fair price. Because at the end of the day, ArcelorMittal is a dominant player in the flat steel market. And government needs to ensure that the prices charged to the downstream is a fair price. And therefore the fair price is based on a basket of countries that we trade with Germany, with Japan, with the US. And I need to compete with those countries, which means I need to be efficient, I need to reduce my costs. So that is a strategy we're focusing on, to be a safe company, to be a cost-efficient company, and to ensure that we deliver stakeholder value and growth.